Welcome back. Now, Black Friday is fast approaching with local consumers increasingly participating. SMEs may be drawn to compete in that market. But what does participating in Black Friday as an SME owner entail? Credit manager at Merchant Capital, Franco Heslinga, joins us now with those insights. Thank you so much for your time, Franco. Now, what does the participation of small businesses usually look like on Black Friday? Because it would seem that typically consumers are drawn to big retailers for specials.
Thanks for having me, Sinati. Black Friday, it's quite a hot topic every year, and I think it's been increasing on a yearly basis, becoming more and more important as this marketing goes out there. And if you look back at the year, it's been a tough time, and I think consumers, wallets was closed a bit. We went through quite a bit of interest rate hikes, inflation, and I think it's the one day where businesses can really bargain on getting consumers in. And you make mention of the bigger entities, but I really do think there's an opportunity for the SMEs to also kind of go into this market, with a proper plan and a proper strategy. There's no reason for them to come short.
Okay. Yeah, quite interesting, of course, because we know the dominance that big retailers have on a Black Friday. But really interesting that you say that SMEs can actually take advantage of a Black Friday. But how do they actually take advantage? Let's start off because money is usually the big thing that you think of. Does a company need to have deep pockets to participate on Black Friday? And as a small business, where do you actually need to channel your financial muscle?
I think it all comes down to each individual business and kind of the strategy they're going to go with for this day. There's quite an interesting article on Business Tech that was published about a month ago. It's called Black Friday Around the Corner, and what that means for South Africa. And what that article speaks to quite a lot is the strategy you're going with is so important in upfront and maybe a month or 2 months ahead. Do proper planning, do cash flow analysis, and see what can you afford on that day. You make mention on is it necessary for deep pockets? And not necessary. I think it ties in with your strategy and the planning you're going to go with to make sure you've got the cash flow needed to buy the right stock and the right amount of stock that you want to sell that day. And if necessary, explore alternative options to go and get some funding to make sure you've got the right working capital.
Yeah, actually, what kind of funding then do you need to look for? Because, at the same time, as much as you're trying to get money into the business, but you also don't really want to dent your balance sheet there. What kind of capital do you need to look for to maintain the kind of capital and financial resilience that you need?
That's 100%. That's so spot on in terms of when taking funding and knowing how much you need to take, to generate the right amount of revenue of the products you're buying. If you look at like a Merchant Capital, that's exactly where we specialize, providing these entities with the right amount of working capital. And from a business side, it's important to know your margins, know what you can expect that day in terms of your sales. And, how low can you drop your prices for it still to make sense? And if you went the route of alternative funding in sense of working capital, make sure you're going to make the same revenue on that day to cover those costs.
Are the risks, though, quite intimidating here for small businesses, Franco?
I think tie it back again, with the strategy. If you do proper planning and you make sure you know your products, a key thing that, we always mention is use this day to get rid of some old stock. If you've been sitting on stock that might go off in a few months, or stock that's really been sitting on your shelves for the last couple of months, hindering your cash flow, this is the right moment to drop the prices on those products, get it out. And I think the main thing is specialize on your popular products, the ones that really selling, and try and bulk up on them.
And actually, how important is innovation here, particularly on the digital side? Because, this is also, you talk about planning and, being strategically ready for this kind of maybe demand that you may see. How important is that?
Yeah, it's become so important over recent years. I think, especially since COVID, the whole world changed in terms of, from a digital aspect. Everyone is online. And what that has created, and it's actually great for a consumer, is you can sit at work and still do Black Friday. You don't need to take the day to actually participate in the day. So advice that we have for these SME owners and the entrepreneurs is, really look at investing in a digital and e-commerce platform. Make sure you've got one up and running if you are able to get there. And if you've got an existing one, make sure it's quite user-friendly. The last thing for that day is there's a lot of traffic on your website and the website goes crashing. So make sure you're ready ready to handle the volumes, and it's efficient for a consumer to use.
Yeah, and we don't want your site to be crashing like Netflix crashed between the boxing match with Mike Tyson last week. But just on that, clearly taking advantage of Black Friday and the benefits that do come with it. When, as an SME owner, do I actually need to start preparing for Black Friday?
I think it's each business is differently. Each entrepreneur's got his own strategy and they know when they need to prepare. I think maybe a few key points to keep in mind is you're going to have a lot of volume on the day. So you can expect a lot of customers, which means you need a lot of stock. So I think one of the most important points is make sure you've stocked up on the right products. Make sure you've done your research on getting the stock in time and making sure your suppliers still have the availability for you, and then you should be good to go. So it ties into each and every business owner. They're the specialists, they know how to run their businesses, and they need to just stock up front.
And is this about competing with the big retailers, or just basically knowing what market you want to attract and actually what you want to achieve on the day, not necessarily competing with the big companies?
These businesses, they're so resilient, throughout the year, they're able to keep up with all these bigger retailers and kind of really get things going. So I think for this specific day, maybe some of them will have a bit more foot traffic than they might have it on e-commerce platform. And if, throughout the year, they've kept up good client relationships, most of them, they've got a steady client base. If you're going to service those clients accordingly, you should definitely see them coming in. And there's no reason for you not to, also get the best of this day, similar to all the other big entities.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time and giving us insight on that and really the advantages that small businesses can take on a Black Friday. That was Franco Heslinga, the credit manager at Merchant Capital.